This conference will now be recorded.
All right, we'll call the City of New Richland Council meeting for August 28th to order. Roll call, everyone is here. Do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, does anybody have any?
Yeah, I got a couple additions for new business. Number 5, a technology purchase request. Number 6, a lot sale for the Homestake subdivision. And number 7, approved EDA grants.
All under new business.
Please.
Motion to approve the agenda with additions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Consent agenda items. Anybody have any questions?
I'll second that.
Did we get a, did
Yeah,
you,
Jordy made a
okay.
motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, public comment. Do we have anybody that would like to speak for public comment? Otherwise, we're gonna move on. All right, requests and presentations, hydrology study, Joe Lewis.
Yes, thank you, everybody. It's nice to be down here talking about the work that we've done to look at the city's flooding problem. I have, think about 10 minutes of just kind of a high-level overview of the work that we've done. We can take some questions afterwards, or I'm okay with doing, if that works for you. I don't know if you have a.
Yeah, I'd like to keep the questions to the council, because we do want to put together a public meeting. So I'd like to keep the questions to the council at this time, and then we'll put together a public meeting for the public. And at that time, we'll share that information with the public.
Okay, thank you. So you can go to the next slide. So we are, well, kind of stating the obvious here that there's a flooding problem here in the city. If you've been here for more than a couple of years, you've seen that happen. I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times in the past 20 years. There's been high water, maybe more. And there's really not expectation that that's going to go away on its own. There's whatever you think of the kind of changing climatic projections, there's significant flood events happening more often than there used to be. I think that's from observed data. And the purpose of our study here is to first kind of quantify from a technical perspective, what is that flood risk? How high does it get? How often? And based on technical procedures. And then we are using the tool put together to quantify existing flood risks and looking at different projects or alternatives of projects to see how effective they are at reducing that flood risk at different locations through the city. And one way to put this into perspective is that for the existing flood risk, we look at what is the capacity, how much water can move through the system in its current state. So we know the system, which consists of the open channel ditch that's been there a long time, and then the culvert crossings. If you look at just the ditch itself, you can fit about 400 to 600 cubic feet per second. That's a flow rate. So how much volume every second that moves through that channel, given the shape and the slope of the channel. So the culverts are, they're more variable, just given the different sizes, but they're in that same range of 400 to 600 CFS. And you look at a 100-year flood event that has a 1% chance of happening every year. That has a flow rate of 1,200 to 1,300 CFS. So that is double to triple the amount of water that's entering the city beyond what the system can move through. So once you exceed that capacity of the system, water just comes out of the channel and you start having those impacts. So those low-lying areas. So, our purpose here is to identify what are the next steps for the city to look at to create a permanent solution. We also just mentioned that the system that's there, that's in place, it's been there a long time. Its intent was to serve an agricultural drainage purpose, and that's not to have no flood risk during a large 100-year flood event or greater, or even smaller events.
I've got a question.
Okay.
1,200 cubic feet, how many gallons is that?
So there's 7.48 gallons in a cubic foot, so 10,000 gallons per minute, something like that.
That's a lot.
Yeah. The upstream area, the watershed that drains into the city is around 10 square miles. So during a 100-year flood event, for this part of Minnesota, there's 7.5, 7.75 inches of rainfall over a 24-hour period. So that's what we would design a project for. So not all of that leaves, some of it's going to soak in depending on how dry the ground is when it starts raining, but you're going to get 60 to 80% of that generated as runoff. That's going to go somewhere. It's going to go downstream.
Do you remember how much inches in a 24-hour period was that big flood was?
11.
11 or 12. Okay. And you just said when? How much?
7 2/3, I think.
Okay, so almost twice.
Yeah, well, yeah. Okay, and then the other thing I'll mention is, so the city is not enrolled in the National Flood Insurance Program. So that's FEMA. That program's been around for 40, 50 years. I think it was started in the 70s, early 70s. So what that means is, if you were enrolled in that program, you would be required to do a couple of things. One is to have a local floodplain ordinance and enforce it. That would restrict some things within inside of a designated floodplain. You would also have a designated floodplain, and properties within inside that floodplain that had a government-backed mortgage would be required to carry flood insurance. So that would be a requirement. And I bring that up, I don't know any history with why the city is or isn't an enrolled community in that program, but there is, since they do this across the country, they have pretty well-defined approaches from a technical perspective of how situations like this are analyzed. So we have followed that here. We've looked at things kind of from an initial standpoint, a preliminary standpoint, but we are consistent with generally how they require floodplains to be mapped and analyzed. And if we were designing a project in a regulatory floodplain and you wanted those residents to not have to carry flood insurance, the project would have to meet FEMA's design criteria as well. So that's another reason for doing this, following their procedures. And it sets you up for some funding later, because if you're looking for money, they're going to look for projects to be analyzed a certain way and designed a certain way. Okay, so that's my introduction. Existing conditions I touched on, and then alternatives, and then I'll talk a little bit more about that funding, and then next steps here. So the watershed area here, the centered kind of light green, that is Joint County Ditch 6 watershed, and then County Ditch 47 from the south converge there in the center of town. I think you guys are probably very familiar with how this is laid out. So like I said, approximately 10 square miles. The blue lines are ditches, the red lines are tile as part of the public drainage system. There'd be other tile out there, but that would be privately managed. You can go to the next slide. And I jumped ahead and covered this already, but this is how we've generally described the capacity of the existing system. Let me just make sure there's nothing else I want to mention about that. Yeah, so we've quantified that existing flood risk, and now we're ready to kind of step into looking at different types of alternatives. And I think that's going to be a segue after this slide. So this is a lot of area that is shown as flooding. I think we are slightly high on this, areas to the north there, there's been, from the recent flood events, that's wetter than we've seen, so there's some approximation going north of there, but on the east side of town and south, I think we were closer to the mark there for that 7 2/3 inch event. And this is something that we need to show both to evaluate the effectiveness of alternatives, but also to demonstrate to people that have potentially some funding that there is a real flood risk here. And yeah, you've seen the real flood risk yourself, but this is kind of a technical backed process. Okay, on the next slide, we have a couple alternatives. I think my heading there is wrong, but we're looking at the different types of alternatives. So we looked at increasing the conveyance. If you go back to that previous one. So the title there, I say current conditions, but I should say alternatives or types of alternatives. So we looked at just making the capacity higher through the city. So enlarging the channel and putting in bigger culverts. So the idea is that we're able to carry more water at a lower water elevation to reduce that flood risk. And there's some restrictions or limitations with that. If you go deeper or wider, you're going to impact those structures that are currently close to the channel. I think our channel is currently 50 to 60 feet wide at the top, and we'd be looking at 20 to 30 feet maybe outwards from either side, and anything within that area is going to be challenging to widen the channel or deepen the channel without removing those structures. And then beyond that constructed channel, widen the constructed channel, there'll be some setback too that would come into play with just analyzing the geotechnical work. What's the stability of that slope, and is there some risk to failure to those sides?
I would presume that if you go with that, you're going to have to do the whole thing the same width, same depth, correct?
Yeah, you would look for it's going to vary depending on how deep the channel is at different locations along the length of it. But yeah, you'd be looking at a pretty consistent width.
You don't have to, otherwise it'll get backed up somewhere.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Diversions. So that has the benefit of you're able to control how much water you're diverting away from the city before it gets into the city. So you don't have those same space restrictions. You are requiring space, but it's not through the center of the city. And we looked at two different types, so two different alternatives. One is on the east side of the city, east of the highway, to take it around to the north, and then the other alternative is to divert the tile from CD 47 to go west, south of Highway 30, and enter the channel to the east, to the west of town. So both of those have benefit. The northern diversion is easier to take around the north side of the city just because of the topography on the south side. It's a pretty steep hill, 30 or 40 feet of cut at the deepest. Okay, and then property buyouts. We didn't look at this one super closely, but anything that's mapped in the current 100-year would be subject to a potential property buyout. That would be expensive with that map that's shown on there a few slides ago. Lots of properties. We didn't look at individual properties. We just mapped the flood elevations and threw that on the aerial, and it is what it is. So there's probably some fine tuning that happens with that plan. But like I said, we didn't put a lot of detail into that. The last thing we looked at was structural protection. So that would be a levee and or a flood wall. So levee being an earthen embankment constructed alongside the channel. So there again, you're gonna have impacts along the channel, things that are currently in a 30 to 50 foot setback from the levee, or that's where you need to construct a levee. At certain locations, it wouldn't be probably the full length of the channel on both sides through the entirety of town. but for a good length. And that height of the levee would be dictated by what are your flood levels. When we come back to a FEMA standard, that standard is to construct a levee 3 feet higher, 3 feet above your flood elevation, under your flood elevation, so that you're not just getting by when you have a flood. A flood wall being a structural wall, a concrete wall that may be a foot and a half thick and as high as you need it. Again, 3 feet above the floodplain, and that's going to be constructed for below the surface to have that necessary structural support. So we did not take these very far. We put some concept things on a map and left it at that. And we have a couple sites here showing the effectiveness of these alternatives. So this one is the culvert replacements. So we left the channel alone, we changed the culverts, and you see the orange is the area that's removed from that mapped 100-year floodplain. And the biggest difference is between the railroad and Highway 13 on the east side. The railroad embankment has culverts that are not that different in size compared to the upstream and downstream ones, but it has a higher embankment. So once it's flowing full, it has nothing to do but sit behind it until it can slowly drain down. Okay. So I'm probably saying some things here that you guys already know, you've seen it, you've lived it. So that was kind of a priority. The railroad would be the most impactful culvert for replacement. The next slide looks at a scenario with culvert replacements and channel widening. So there it's a different orange area, slightly different orange area. We do see an incremental improvement by doing the channel widening. And then that strip down the middle over the existing ditch is just a buffered additional width beyond the existing channel to show how close you're getting to some of those existing structures. Next slide. And now this one is, again, pretty effective. A larger orange area showing a bigger reduction. And the line up there in purple is a potential alignment. We did not give a lot of thought to, we just looked at, would this type of project be effective? And the benefit of this is you can size it to do what it needs to do, take as much water as you need, where those options through the city are constrained by the area. And we could have keep going deeper or wider with that channel, larger culverts, and gotten the same outcome. But you're making a big channel through town, and you're impacting a lot of the structures that you're attempting to protect. So that's where we stopped with this one. And now this one is the southern diversion. So the difference here is, we don't have an orange here. I don't know why that is, but I think it's because we have a very limited impact. So CD47, that tile that comes in from the south, it's a smaller portion of the upstream watershed that feeds into the city. So we see a smaller impact. Coming from the east side on that CD6 channel, we're dealing with a bigger area, more water that we can divert away from the town. And like I said on other alternatives, this could be fine-tuned, to be better performing, put in a bigger diversion channel to take more water from the system. But this is that initial look at it. Next slide. So that's a recap of the effectiveness of the alternatives that we considered. Now I wanted to just touch on funding. So the Minnesota DNR administers a flood hazard mitigation program that has been around since 1987, and they've distributed $590 million since that time. And there's no dedicated funding source. It's appropriated from the legislature year to year. Sometimes they fund it, sometimes they don't. And the process to pursue that money is to develop an application submit it to the DNR, looking at their prioritization criteria. So they have that out there, that's defined. And you would put in as strong of an application as you can, and then you're assigned a high, medium, or low priority. So I think just knowing your flood risk, you're not going to be low. You're going to be at medium or high. So you've taken steps to get to a point where you have a strong application, because some of the things that they look for are, what is the capability of the community to actually carry out a project like this. So you've taken a step here to do it already by having some technical work done. They also look at how much of a plan do you have, right? So if you have something that's pretty well detailed out, fleshed out, you're gonna have a higher application, you're gonna have a higher ranking, I should say, a higher priority. And there's a number of different things that are on there, but I think like I said, would be in that medium to high category. The other interesting thing there, and this is not a statute or a rule of this funding program, but it is with each annual appropriation that they do. They have, at least since 2009, maybe further, they have limited the local contribution to a flood project to 2% of the median household income for the community times the number of households. So and that's U.S. Census based. So from the 2020 census, the DNR gave us a number roughly, and it was 450,000 based on those metrics. So if you have a $3 million project or $4 million project, you have the same contribution. So, but again, it's not set in stone, but it's been that way for a while. Next slide. So next steps, I just put some things on here. I see some additional detail being helpful to strengthen that application for funding, to both button up some things with existing flood risk, verifying that that's an accurate map, or fine tuning that map, and then additional analysis for those alternatives to really zero in on what is the best alternative, and once that's selected, what are some more details about that, what's going where, not 100% design, but maybe a 10-30% design, so you have some more confidence or more certainty with what the project's going to look like. And then there is the PCA, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, has a planning grant that's available for applications right now until the middle of November. I think this project would be a good candidate for that and likely to receive funding, and that also has a match, but that is a 10% match from the community. So that would be a way to advance to the next phase of planning and preliminary design.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've planned for some public engagement as part of this too. So we've not made any definite plans, but we've discussed it, and what content's presented and how that's formatted is, I guess, up for discussion still. So I think that's my last slide, Tony.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I was looking at the cost estimates on the northern diversion, and you had land acquisition, 25 acres. It's $6,200 an acre. I don't know where you're buying that land, unless you're buying it up north in the bogs. Have you looked at farmland lately? What is going on?
Well, that's a good comment. I think we did look at a U of M, sales report, which may be flawed and maybe out of date. So that's a good comment.
I think anybody here would probably say that it's probably out of date. I live in the city, so I wouldn't know.
Right half what it's worth.
Yeah,
Yeah, I say about double that.
it's about 10, 11.
Good. Well, I did cover a lot there quickly. I tried to not go by too much, but hopefully you understand what we did and kind of why the approach was taken that we did.
I can't remember, did you recommend one of these alternatives or diversions? What is the top? I feel like you did.
Yeah,
but
I think
don't-
it's not a hard recommendation, but the northern diversion looks to be the most effective. both from a flood reduction standpoint and from a cost standpoint. So, a good value.
I think there's maybe some, and Chris, not to throw you on the spot too, but I think there's some potential, I think the county, I think, is interested in potentially diverting the southern ditch at the same time, potentially as part of maybe some work together on this project as well.
Well, I think that this is a great opportunity for us to look at all of the alternatives because, and we'll get to it, but if you look at all three of the alternatives that Houston has provided, not one of those alternatives at this time protects every structure within the city. And so more than likely it's going to have to be a combination of more than one alternative to achieve what we're after. And with County Ditch 47 on the south side of town, looming in the near future, there's some significant repairs that we're going to be faced with dealing with. And so, now will be the opportune time to research doing some of those repairs, possibly in conjunction with an alternative or a reroute diversion project. But, with a little bit more technical work from Houston's purview, hopefully we can narrow up a few of the questions that are out there yet. And, we're not ready to start digging dirt.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But, it's the important thing to, for you as a council to understand is that out of this, not one measure will solve the problem on its own. So, we'll have to wade through, what we're going to kind of take a la carte from everything to, to achieve a value and the desired outcome.
My plan is I'm working on the grant piece of that to continue to work on this plan to go forward. And I know that the county has also pledged some money to help with going forward on this as well. So, but I think the council's next step should be some sort of public sharing session with a more detailed presentation for the rest of the community where we can put it in the big room with some big maps and kind of share more detailed information with everybody and have some Houston people here to be able to answer some more in-depth questions for those people.
That was my question. Because Houston here.
Well, I think before that, I think we should take what he said and see what we can get as a final product of any of the three of those things combined with what the county may want to do in the judicial ditch on the south side of town. At least have a plan there to say that, do you guys agree with us that this works?
It's up to you guys.
Well, I think having a meeting is the best route to see what the community that's not here to talk, so that they have a time to ask their questions. So it might come up with something that we might not have thought of, or just to come up with ideas so that everybody's kind of more informed with everything. So, do you need a motion just to direct you to set up that meeting, or?
No, I can, if that's what you want to do, yeah, you can make a motion for me to work with Joe and set up a time that works because we do have, it's going to take a little bit to set it up because we have a lot of community meetings and public hearings coming up in the next couple of weeks. So we're going to have to find a time to work. So, but yeah, we can definitely find a time that works. But I think it makes sense now to get the reason that I think we can't push it off is this study's been a long time coming and we need to share the information now. So we need to
his comment though is getting me mulling, because not to say I assumed that we were only gonna go with one plan,
No,
but we had
No.
3 alternatives, and you kind of sort of say, well, if this is an alternative, we're gonna take it.
oh, no.
So if he had something that we could all get together and say, like I said, if you take something out of three of the alternatives and get with one plan, well, then it's a good deal. And bring it to the community and say, what do you guys like? You know, same thing, but I think that combination of everything may be our better end product. Just my thought.
Yeah.
Are you saying combining?
I'm not understanding.
I'm
at
not
all.
either.
Talking about.
No, he's just saying that he was wondering if it makes more sense for the council to have a shared vision of what the final product is before you go to a community meeting.
Yeah. Like we try to put a design together, what
Put a
would be the
design
best
together
option
before-
instead
We're
of,
really giving them one option. We're not giving them, showing them.
This might be
No,
just
right.
like our street
But like you
project.
said-
It might be one meeting, maybe combined. Hey, these are all the options. And then after that, have a meeting to narrow it down too.
I feel like there's
I don't
gonna be
think the
more
next
than one
meeting's gonna
meeting that
be,
we're
this
gonna-
is the plan.
No, but the thing that sticks in my mind is, he said if we took option, really, northern bypass, if we combine that with doing something with the southern area of town, that would be one alternative, not just the alternative of making a northern bypass.
Yeah, and I think this is
Or
something.
you're adding more cost to it if you start adding.
Well, granted, but we gotta fix the problem.
And I think that this is something that staff and Joe can keep communicating on together while
I agree.
we're waiting for this.
As long as you have that in the back of your minds.
We may come to that solution before that hearing takes place.
Okay.
What is the deadline for the grant?
End of November,
Is it end? Okay.
so they're pretty close, towards the end of November.
So then when do you usually find out, information back from that?
I think typically 2 months.
Yeah, I wanna say it was a
That's
January award or some January, February, March
Yeah.
award, somewhere in that.
And there's typically some paperwork to do, so it's another month or two before you actually
So
get to
do
go ahead.
do we need to have a specific plan?
No, cause
Them?
it's gonna be,
That was my question.
no, it'll be,
what's the deadline to use the money for, you know?
Yeah.
Typically 2 or 3 years.
2 or
Yeah.
3
So
years.
don't you think it would be, see what we get that results back first, then present, this is what we were given as a grant. This will be our cost afterwards, estimate, so that when we're presenting all these alternatives, they can see, well, this is what we're gonna get covered and this is.
the
what-
grants will be written for technical work to continue work on the project, so that it's not necessarily dependent on any specific program or anything, like that. It'll just
Yeah.
be to continue the
Help us come up
technical
with a
work.
plan.
To get-
It'll just be the cost to continue
Engineering
the
costs.
technical work on the grant,
Gotcha.
so.
I think we're talking about two separate
Yeah, I
grants.
think we are too, yeah,
Final
okay.
Blues
Oh,
Alliance
yeah,
grants.
yeah. Sorry.
What the, yes, for, if we're thinking about maybe combining
Oh,
them.
yeah, no, sorry. No, we're talking about the MPCA has a grant
Oh, yeah.
for the,
Yep.
for the technical portion of it to cover the, Joe's thinking it's gonna be, in the 20 to 30,000 to buckle up the portion to submit the grant documents to the Minnesota DNR for the big
For the
grant.
big.
Now,
So that's the little grant that we're applying for the big grant.
out of either one of those grants, if your somewhat plan that you put forward saying, we want this money for this plan, if that plan kind of sort of changes after you get the grant, are they okay with that?
I think, yeah, there's always gonna be project
There's gonna be
modifications, yeah, but, they're looking for the community with a plan and, being confident that that community is gonna be able to, navigate to finding that best final product, and if it's justified as a change, I think it's.
Okay.
I think they're looking for the end product of the resiliency of the final details.
For this. Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
All right.
I'm gonna skip over the resolution for now.
Department reports, care center.
Evening, everybody.
Hi.
Bob?
So the care center report, I've got good news and better news.
Yay.
Tony loves it. Tony, I'm gonna start with the better news. The auditors have already started the process.
Sweet.
The question is, when will they be
Yeah, when
done?
will they be done? Tell me that. Can you see the crystal ball?
March.
Next year.
If they're done in March, I will give you a big hug.
Okay. Thanks.
It's on recording.
The only bad thing about them starting right now is they kind of, as they come in and they make adjustments from throughout the year, they kind of messed up my September numbers. So I don't have real concrete numbers, so we're gonna just wing it. But our average census in the month of September went down. From August, we had almost 41, and we got about 38 in the month of September. Still a pretty good month, and the reason I say that is because we had a lot of turnover of residents, meaning we had a lot of Medicare residents, rehab people, and managed care residents. So the revenue on those patients is higher than the long-term care people. We did have 24 referrals in the month of September. We accepted 12, admitted 4 of the 12. Many of them chose to go somewhere else or go home. And I think one may have passed away in the hospital. We did decline 12 of them due to, mostly in the month of September, due to lack of payer source or insurance. So that was a difficult month, and some younger people that didn't fit in our community. Whether or not they had behaviors or addictions of some sort. And we discharged 7 to home and assisted livings. Projects that we've been working on that we finally completed. The lining to our sewer pipe is finally down. And you know what? The neat thing about that, they put this nifty little lining in there. Just fills up inside the pipe. And about a week later, we started having a toilet issue. And of course, Paul was gone. So you can call him Hurricane Paul, because every time he leaves, there's a water problem. And I went in there that night and I plunged. I couldn't get that water to go down for nothing. He comes back and I says, you don't suppose that line just goes straight out? Nope, goes through the center of the building. He says, it's gotta go through the main line, it's gotta. Plumber, it's gotta go through the main line, it's gotta. Sure enough, went right outside the building, because it's in the new part of the building. And it hooks onto the sewer line and they capped it off.
It was one of those that you.
So they had to come back, cut that out, sand it off, and fix it.
That was one.
Right? And he thought it was a storm.
Now we know what it's for.
Yeah. So now those
Well, there was
toilets,
one more, I think there was 2.
we've only found one so far.
Well, when you're plunging the next one, you know where it's
Yeah, I know where it's going. So that was out of service for a while. The air conditioning in the kitchen is finally complete. I know it's fall, winter's coming, but we never turn the heat on in the kitchen, ever. It's always hot in the kitchen. Point of fact, in the winter, we have the air conditioning running in the kitchen. And it's still hot in the kitchen. So now we actually have good air conditioning. It's gonna cool off. No more drips in the ceiling, no more broken ceiling tiles. It's gonna be great. I think the kitchen staff enjoy it as well. The flagpole installation is complete. Our new pole is up. Flag is flying. It's wonderful. Thank you to the Legions and Waseca and Richmond. The exterior sidewalks, John Hallpeter is gonna start working on them soon, give or take, see what happens with the weather. And the rest of his 40-some projects that he had going on this summer. And I'm looking to do some updates to the staff lounge. The flooring that we have in there is probably original. So back in 1987, I think that was put up. We'll be replacing the flooring, doing some painting, taking some of that rummage sale furniture that's in there and throwing it out, and putting something more comfortable in there. Try to create a non-work zone so they can go in there and relax. And the last one, don't throw anything at the speaker here. I'm working on some ideas on expanding our nursing home. One of the things that we can foresee in the future, and every single person in this room has some sort of insight into this. How many of us want a roommate that we don't know when we get stuck in the nursing home? I certainly do not. And I can guarantee they don't want me because I snore. So we're looking at creating private rooms. So expanding the size of our building to create private rooms and make a big cube out of it. And I'm also on the southeast corner to be able to create a better activity area. Activities really doesn't make us any money, but it sure sells people on a nursing home. Right now, in that nursing home, you cannot find a place to go sit in the sun by a window unless you have a south-facing window in your room. So I would love to create a wall of windows so people could go sit and look outside or just sit in the sun and enjoy themselves. Doesn't matter what time of year it is, it'd be a beautiful area. So those are a couple of things I'm looking at. And then the potential for building independent patios on the south property. That would be wonderful. I think we could sell them like hotcakes. So I'm going to do some research into that, or pull back the research that they've already done and try to see what's new. In the realm of quality, our quality committee has been looking at what we call QIIP, Quality Improvement Initiative, and that will relate to fall reduction. Not that our falls are terrible. We went for a very long time, didn't have any fall, but we are trying to improve that. The QIIP actually has state money attached to it. So when we succeed, we will get an increase per resident per day through Medicare and Medicaid. So that is helpful to us to succeed. Not to mention, it keeps our residents in better health. The PIP programs, we got two of them. One is quality of life that we've been working on, trying to get people more engaged in our community, trying to get people out and whether it's at activities, dining, visiting in the hallways with their neighbors, those type of things. Being a more home-like community. And then the other PIP, we have to do a fall reduction as well because we're doing the QIP. Now in the financial realm, this is where the auditors kind of mess things up. I am going to safely say we will make a positive $20,000, possibly $30,000 in the month of September. So once we get those numbers figured out, we can report that a little more firmly. Staffing, always looking for nurse aides, nurses. Let's see, other stuff, working with Nationwide, after Tony mentioned it, to offer staff pre-tax option to save even more money. There's a minimum of $25 to begin a savings plan per month. So I think that could open up a lot to staff members. Being able to get them interested in that, I think is a good thing. Very difficult for the younger generation, I know. I remember. I don't need that. I'm going to work till I die. I don't want it. Well, I want to get younger people interested in it, to be able to say, you know what, if you don't buy one monster per week, that's $25. And you can put that in your savings. And then it just continues to build from there. That's the kind of the key. That's the catch. So right now they're working on me as the guinea pig, trying to get our payroll system and their system married up together and make it work. And today we have healthcare open enrollment. I think we got just about everybody, all of the full-time staff within the building, either signed up or denied the insurance, which is fine. So, and I would like to mention that we have Halloween trick or treat Thursday night, 5 to 7 at the nursing home. You don't get anything else with that. Any questions? Kind of long-winded today.
No.
It's all right. Okay, thank you.
Motion to approve the care center administrative report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
Hi,
you're up.
Right, I don't have a whole lot for the month of September. We had all of our city and the Waits plant fire extinguishers done. That was good. There was a major loose wire bag connection in the control panel in my office and the big board. Lori came and fixed all that. There still is a problem between the generator and it shuts, when the generator comes on, it shuts off all my chemical feeds. And we still don't know why yet. So for right now, if the generator runs, I just go reset everything until we get it figured out. Minnesota pump was here. We had some major issues with some pumps. The Napa pump, pump 2 had a broken fin in it, so it wasn't spinning, and I had it on off because it wasn't right, so I shut it off. So it's a good thing. So it saved the impeller. All it just needs is that part. So otherwise it would have wrecked the whole shaft. Elm, it was like green carpet wrapped completely around the pump, the Elm lift station. Didn't wreck the pump, luckily, because I had shut it off because it wasn't running. And yeah, it was like green carpet. Like, you know, when you pull a carpet, you know,
Yeah,
the
the
string,
string.
that's what it was. Big hunk of it. So got that out of there and now it runs just fine. The main lift at the plant, the number 2, the shaft, the keyway, everything just like detonated in the thing. So, and I think you got the quotes on that. I know it's pretty it's awful, but,
10 horse pump, that's a big pump.
don't know why it happens. I mean, I think those were put in 2011, so we're getting some good life out of them because we're taking care of them. So, yeah. Biosolids, me and Taylor land applied on the 3rd. Took us 4 hours. It was slick as ever. We 68,400 gallons. So that was our fastest time yet.
I was gonna say, is that-
Done. Yeah, it was fast. Not one drop spilled, so that was a good thing. And then I got one more thing done off of my big list, you know, that I showed you guys. I got one more big thing off of there, so just a few left. So yeah, then I'll start a new list.
Hoping to have it completed by the end of the year list?
Well, I would like to. It's almost done. That was a big list, so.
Yeah.
Any questions? Yeah, there's the maintenance dollars spent.
So you said this pump broke and you gave a quote? Is that something that?
Well,
we
yeah,
see?
no,
Yeah,
we're gonna see, I'm gonna try
Yeah.
to get another one, 'cause it seems awfully high.
Yeah, it's pretty steep.
So it's something that needs to get like fixed immediately?
Yeah, I have 4 pumps out at the waste treatment plant. I have 2 10-horse and 2 20-horse.
So,
The 20 horses, you don't use them unless it's flooding, and then we have to use them. The 10s, they switch off, so one will go, then the other, to save on them.
Mhm.
But number 2 hasn't worked. Gosh, it's probably been at least a month and a half.
So it's not like it's an emergency.
Yeah, now if it was during the flooding, we had the other 2, so we still got 2 20s. They just pump real fast, so it drains it really, really fast, and then the rest of the plant will suffer, but it would be doable if I had to do it.
You're getting a
So,
couple other quotes to make sure we can see who comes in
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, it's pretty steep, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so.
Well, yeah, 20 or 10 horse is pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Well, normally they're
Well,
pretty
usually,
good, but
yeah, we have the 5s or, 5.5.
I just kind of
horse
opened
and
that one, I went,
And I closed it.
Yeah, I did too, actually. I was like, do we really need it? But you, yeah, out there, the way, winter I don't mind, but now number one pump is running nonstop.
Yeah.
So it doesn't get to break.
We'll have more than that quote for the next meeting.
Yeah.
How long does a pump usually last? You said we've
I
gotten some
think we
good
got
life.
these in 2011, so it's, I mean.
Is
if
it
you
towards
take care
end
of
of
them,
life? Like, are you,
it could last, I mean, depends on the pump, but yeah, if no rocks go through it, no sticks,
Mhm.
you know, I'm lucky I didn't have sticks. And you take care of it and get it inspected every year and change the oil in them, yeah, they'll probably last you. Most time it's that impeller in there, the fin will bust off the cast on it, but you can get them, take care of them and watch what comes in your sewer, like green carpet and rocks and
mhm.
stuff like that. It's hard on them, you know. That'd be like throwing a piece of carpet string in your fan of your car and see if you can
Or your garbage
keep
disposal.
going. Yeah, it's like it doesn't work. So that's
He's the one that
community
shut it down
education, where more things have to get sent out to make them aware that, you know, this part is $15,000. But we had some stuff that came through that, you know, totally destroyed it, so. It's just education.
Yeah.
So I will be sending out more education, so, on it.
All right.
But any questions otherwise? No? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Move to accept the people service report.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Eric?
Hi, everyone.
Eric?
Mine's also gonna be somewhat short. Wasn't here for most of the month.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we had 13 blue cards this year, or this month. Thank you, Heather. She's been doing a wonderful job keeping those down. We probably used to 30 yet. Now we're down to 12, 13 every month. We started cleaning some branches around stop signs and anything that had sign interference. Matt, at the bank helped out on the weekends and we helped out cleaning up those. Sweeper's ready to go. I think we're gonna start Thursday. We're just gonna get started. We'll have to go back out and redo them all again.
Once leaves are done.
Yes, once the leaves are all down. We flushed hydrants last week. We had a little bit of, we had some calls. We had some calls about dirty water. And coming out of the water plant, everything was clear. Coming out of the water tower, everything was clear. We went to the hydrants, flushed all those, everything was clear. So I think it's just the lateral coming into people's houses that was building some crud because we ended up raising the water tower. So it's probably a little bit more pressure and that's what we're hoping is what's going on because it's clear coming out of our system. So
The one that you called me about, did that one get resolved? Like,
yeah,
was it clear?
it was
Okay.
clear.
Okay.
It was. I don't want to name names.
No, I know.
But
That's
they
why
had
I'm
a-
not
they had
saying.
a 2-inch line.
Okay.
And he said, "Oh, my water's really dirty." And I couldn't believe it because I went there and I'm like, "This is very, very dirty." Well, they'd only used 400 gallons this month, so
Not
it
very
wasn't
much at
enough to
Keep
clean
going.
Yeah.
clean it out. So, and there's been a couple other ones too. So if anyone comes up to you, says anything, tell them to call the city hall and we'll go down in the basement and flush their lines. That's usually the best, quickest, cleanest way to do it. So.
Would running their water wide open for a few minutes?
Absolutely.
20 minutes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Wouldn't even take that.
Especially if they don't use water on a regular basis. Opening up all the bibs and everything is a great way to clean that line out.
is. The windows got fixed and painted at the library, and must have been when it was gone. Looks wonderful. I don't know if anyone's went by there. And then last Friday we cleaned the carpet in the library, and it needed it. It was probably something we should be writing down for every couple of years. And maybe got a little behind, but we'll keep on top of it now. That's all I've got. Any questions?
No. Getting ready for winter, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to, but
We got future projects here, 3 hydrants.
I do have that on the bottom. When we were flushing hydrants, we had 3 that they shut off, but they wouldn't drain themselves down. So we pumped them out today, and it's probably better that we have them serviced.
So it might be parts instead of a whole pump.
What's that?
It'd be parts probably instead of a whole hydrant.
Oh, absolutely, yes, absolutely. So,
Water salesman is shut off now for the year, is that right?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you say?
I call it water
The egg
salesman.
hydrant.
It's the
Yeah.
Hydrant shut down.
egg
Fire.
hydrant for the
Oh,
water.
gotcha.
Hydrant.
Sorry, we can call it
Now I know.
water
It,
salesman.
it did freeze, and once that starts, it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Anybody have anything else? All right.
Move to accept the maintenance report.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you. All right, unfinished business, planning and zoning report.
So there wasn't a quorum, but the people that were there, recommends the council approve and hold a public hearing on the stuff. So
Okay.
just need a motion to accept the zoning report.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
2025 street improvement project?
Yep, so obviously we discussed bringing in 3rd and 4th. So this is just an updated document from Corey explaining the information about bringing the 3rd and 4th in and why, with the PER. Anybody have any questions?
I don't.
With doing that, like having projects like with the pump coming into play, is that gonna affect our budget for the sewer fund?
No, so basically, well, so I'll run through the project. So basically,
Just not knowing what that
yes,
cost for that one.
so adding the project brought it from 2.6 to
Yeah.
3.1. So,
Mhm.
long story short, basically added 500,000 to the project, which makes sense. I talked to Corey after the fact, and I know that you had concerns about why we didn't bring those into official. I know that Robert had mentioned why didn't we do that in the first place too, and Corey and I talked for like an hour after that last council meeting, and I got to thinking to myself, and I'm like, I had this bad feeling that after we get this done, we're gonna be standing on 4th Street and digging into a brand new street trying to replace something that we, didn't we do it when we should have done it.
Yeah.
So we looked at it, and then I had Shannon Sweeney pull the numbers on the project. And so if you go into the numbers on Shannon Sweeney's information here, and you look on the bonding schedule, and I'll actually ask you to look at the 20-year bonding schedule, because I think that makes
Yeah,
sense.
made more sense than the 15.
The 20-year bonding schedule, so the actual debt service levy on the 20-year bonding schedule is actually gonna only add $74,000 to our debt service. So if you remember correctly, we have 130,000 dropping off of our debt service levy, so this would actually only add 74,000 back to that debt service levy.
Well, I went and looked at the columns that had the assessed amount for
different, amounts for whatever people have for house
Yeah,
prices.
yes.
That made me.
Yeah, that's kind of okay, but that really doesn't take into account your normal taxes too. That's just kind of,
Right.
whatever.
But still, I thought that was decent.
Yep. And then Shannon's.
Like under $200 increase tax.
So if you go into here and you look through the storm levy, the operating revenues pay for at a $5 rate. So if we residential customers billed at the $5, which we've talked about in the past on the storm sewer fund, it covers the storm debt payment for this project throughout the whole entire debt service. So it wouldn't have to add any debt to the storm sewer service at all. The water projection is the same based on the debt service through Shannon's projections, the sanitary debt. So so one of the things I did also discover is that when we added the $3 charge for capital improvement fund for the sewer service, when Sarah put that in on the utility thing, it's actually been adding it to the capital fund for water.
So that's why that's so much higher.
So our sewer fund's been underfunded, but it's because the 18,000 that's been supposed to be going into the capital fund for sewer has been going into the water fund. So
That can be taken care of though.
yes, that's Shannon and I talked about that. So that's why you'll see in this water protection, you'll see that there's a transfer of $100,000 this year going into the sewer fund, and then 70,000 for the next couple of years going into the sewer fund to pay back the sewer fund for the capital money that's been going into the water fund that should have been going into the sewer fund. So that'll balance those two funds out eventually to make those payments.
Okay.
So, and then the PFA loan for the sewer fund drops off in 2031. So that debt will be gone as well. Excuse me. So there's your Fourth Street addition as projected in the PER. And then there's your Third Street addition in the PER.
And doing a cul-de-sac, correct? Because so it's easier to maneuver for maintenance.
And it's not there's no addition going on in there. So that street will be decreased by 8 feet. The Third Street will be decreased by 8 feet.
Oh. It would save us maintenance in the future as well. Because right now it's what?
This one will stay
41?
the same as it is.
40?
Yeah, it's 40 right now. Third Street is 40.
Okay.
It's 40 right now. It'll be decreased 8 feet. Because it's the only people that use the street are the people that live on that street. So, and then the reason we went with cul-de-sac is because it gives you basically a way to drive down and turn around and then come back instead of trying to do a 3-point turn. And there's no extension here. There will never be anything built out this direction. So that's why the cul-de-sac was put into that area. And then obviously, we talked today with some concerned residents on Broadway, and I think there's some definite concerns with people concerned about speed and stuff on Broadway, and I think that we definitely need to talk about signage and some things like that as far as the project goes, as far as speed. And I think that I would even maybe make a recommendation to the
All streets to 30 mile an hour?
Yeah, but I think that there's some significant issues with speed on Broadway.
You mean they're going faster
Yeah,
than 30?
yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And I think there maybe is some maybe wouldn't even hurt to talk about putting in some sort of radar controlled speed sign on South Broadway.
They fly down that street.
Yeah.
So,
You have a lot of
It's a nice
traffic.
street, that's why.
You have a lot of traffic with brush down, being
Yeah.
down there, so.
so if you guys are all okay with that, then I guess what we need is to go back to the two resolutions, 2421 and 2422. 2421 is the resolution ordering that report on improvement, and 2422 is the calling on the report and hearing on improvement. And it's basically doing the exact same thing as the previous one. It's the same hearing date. It's the same, everything stays the same. It's the same hearing date. It's just updating it to this report, including the third and fourth.
I guess it's somebody.
Just waiting for you.
I move that we adopt resolution 24-21, ordering preparation report on improvement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
About
I move to adopt 24-22 resolution feasibility report calling for a hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, new business?
Eventually back on old business, we're gonna come back around to the meeting, going on one meeting and all that stuff. I know you can't add it tonight, but maybe have it for next time.
If you want me to bring it back up, I will. I kind of thought it was a dead horse, so
It was supposed to be brought up a couple meetings ago and then just kind of forgot about it, I think.
I'll add it to the next agenda.
Okay, new business? September 2024 check register? Did anybody have any questions?
I knew there was one in there and I forgot it, but
I didn't see anything that stuck out.
I'm doing my best to.
I'd say they're pretty,
well, that little
I've been
note helps.
editing my PDFs and putting notes in there.
Mhm.
A little note helps. But there was one or two, but they weren't much. I just,
Trizito Provider Solutions?
That is, it has to do with ambulance billing,
Okay.
some fee that we get charged for ambulance billing.
Okay. Anybody?
I move we accept the September check register.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright. 2024 financials? September?
Move to accept September 2024 financials.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright, city administrator contract?
You guys asked to put this on the agenda to talk about insurance.
We don't need to go into a closed meeting for that, do we?
No,
No?
you don't want to. Got the rates today, they're 13% increase. At that information, putting the rates in, it's still $2,500 less than I had put in for the planned increase for all of us.
You have how many that, right now that?
3, if you include me, 3. So, but after I put the increased rates in for Eric, Heather, and myself, it dropped the budget $2,500 because the increase wasn't as much as I anticipated. You can handle this now, or you can wait until December when you want to do the final budget, or you can do whatever you want to do.
Anything change between now and then? Can anything change between now?
The rates for insurance will
Will
not
not
change.
change.
No. No, the rates we got today are the rates for next year.
I move that we start it now, but we're gonna have to look at, the budget as a whole, have to do a little bit of whittling.
Well, this would not take effect until January 1st.
Right. Yeah, but we're talking about the budget for next year.
Yeah.
We almost have to kind of do something to approve for him to be able to do open enrollment
Right.
timeframe. So, 'cause when is open enrollment for staff here?
November,
No.
doesn't it?
No.
Right now?
Ends in November, doesn't it?
Mhm.
I move to accept the amendment to the employment agreement between the city of New Richland and city administrator Anthony Martins.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. MinDOT sidewalk improvement project.
This next informational piece is more just an informational piece. Jody asked it to be put on there because people are getting information regarding the sidewalk improvement project that MinDOT is doing. So the city is aware that MinDOT is doing a sidewalk improvement project along Highway 30. This is part of their Americans with Disabilities Act upgrades. The Minnesota Department of Transportation is upgrading all of the sidewalks from one end of town to the other end of town along Highway 30, including all of the approaches, signage, everything at no cost to the city of New Richland. But they are making the sidewalks bigger. There are some people who are not happy with what's going on because the sidewalks are relatively good shape. But
Because they just did about that long.
it is part of their project and they're doing it.
They're gonna be putting up the whole sidewalk?
They're ripping everything up and putting all brand new sidewalk
Oh, I
down
thought
from
maybe
one end of
just
town to the other.
Corners
end of
for
town.
the,
No, because they're going big. Right now, I think we have 4-foot sidewalks. They're putting 5-foot sidewalks in all the way down, all the way from one end to the other.
That's ADA standard now, 5 foot, right?
Well, they gave us a choice of 5 foot or 6 foot. They asked us specifically what we wanted to do. And because we have so many trees and so many other things that are in the way, we told them 5 because otherwise we'd be cutting down all kinds of trees to try to get them in there, so.
And that would be at our expense, correct?
We didn't really get that far.
Okay.
But, and then we have some water shutoffs that are in the way, so it was just, but they are going, it sounded like they're actually doing crossings to Dollar General and stuff
Oh,
in as part of this project and everything.
that would be nice.
I don't know if they're actually doing crossings or just signage, but it sounded like they were doing that, and they're actually extending all the way to the end on Highway 30 to the west. So as part of the project, but it is no cost to us, and it's part of their
up to
ADA.
the top of the hill?
Yeah.
When is the time frame that they're gonna do this?
We're at the
Okay, I didn't know if it was 2025.
it's 2025.
Okay.
So but we're at their disposal of what the time frame is. So, but just so if anybody asks, that's what's going on. It's not us that's doing the project. It's the DOT. It's the ADA. It's their baby, and it's not our community. It's not just our community. They're doing it district wide. It is the ADA project.
What about the garden? They're not going to the garden club thing? They're not gonna have to rip all that up again?
Well, the only thing that we have to worry about is that little piece that comes
Oh, on
along
the corner?
Mhm. So we'll watch when they come to town. DOT is usually pretty good about meeting with us when they come do stuff in town. So hopefully they'll continue to do that. But
I
just
remember on 30, they ripped up the whole flower garden.
okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah,
But just so everybody knows that's what's going on. Just so everybody knows.
thank you.
No, what complaints are you getting?
There's just some people that the sidewalks in good
Yeah,
shape,
I know.
you know. So
Hate to throw away a new sidewalk.
The complaint I got was a waste of money. The money could be spent on something else. and
But I
that's
think,
why
and the person that I talked to, I think maybe some of the people thought we were doing the repairs, that maybe it was money that we were
Gotcha.
No.
spending. So,
Makes sense.
All right. Technology.
okay, so obviously we have some pretty major stuff going on, some pretty big public hearings that we're gonna have substantial amount of people probably come and talk to you guys about some stuff. and we're not gonna be able to use this room, right? We're gonna have to use the other room, so, I would like to, if you want to pass one down, I would like to ask the council to approve, up to $1,000 to purchase, technology for the other room so that I can have the same sort of presentation materials available to the people who come to those meetings, as well, so that we can record meetings, present meetings, just like we do in here.
75.
For those things. So we have 75-inch TV on a cart, and then another recording device and things so that we can record and televise our meetings as well.
Everything's under 1,000, huh?
Everything together is under $1,000. But this way we'd be able to present just like we do here, without having to try to unplug everything, move everything, take everything back and forth. And the nice thing about that also too is it gives the fire department, police department, everybody else another training place facility.
How about if somebody rents the hall? Can they use this?
If the council chooses to allow that as an opportunity, yeah, then we could do that as well. Yeah.
That's what I was.
So, yeah.
Get that new 90.
But my ultimate goal right away is just to be able to keep our transparency with everybody else's, that we're still able to provide that stuff to them. And I would anticipate taking it out of operating expensive and some of our ordinance money that's budgeted, because there's still some money left in those two accounts, so.
I'm okay with it.
I move to approve. What is it, $937?
I'll call it up to 1,000.
Up to 1,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright. Okay, lot.
Yeah, the EDA approved, sale of a lot in the Homestake subdivision to Richard and Sandra Wiles.
What lot?
Lot 6, block 2. So if I could get between Chris Lake and Rewer.
Oh, okay.
So if I could get council approval on that.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
They say that they were gonna build in there?
Somebody else makes some.
I hope so.
I
I
mean,
know, right?
oh, I walked right into that one.
We have a motion and a second, so all in favor?
Aye. I wanna look at this.
Okay. The other one was the grants?
EDA grant, so there's a grant from, Wagner
30,000 square feet, 36.
for a new awning, and a grant from the,
Event center.
yes, the Steeple Event Center to fix some doors. Both were approved by the EDA today.
I move we approve both grants.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Don't look at me. That'll be nice for the awning in front of Wagner. Huh? Nice update. Yeah, it looks really nice.
Yeah. Where's this one at?
That's the old church, First Congregational Church.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I figured you need to see.
That's the one they wanna make into an event center.
Okay.
Awnings aren't cheap.
No.
All right. 2025 budget?
If you want to talk about something, you can, otherwise I'll have the enterprise budgets at the next meeting. And we can talk about some other stuff. Unless you have something specific you'd like to address in the budget.
Did we come up with any more solid numbers on the ambulance that we had?
I'm still waiting for numbers from Sarah on other service charges,
Okay.
so.
Now, would the budget in the future change upon, remember we were talking about, you didn't like the billing place, we weren't getting as much back as we were before?
Well, it would only just change our revenues.
Not much though.
No, probably would, well, it would just mean that our projected revenues would probably more accurately reflect our revenues.
By that big amount or not?
Well, right now, we're projecting our revenues at 170, we're usually bringing in between 70 and 80.
Oh, so it is a fair amount.
But if we went to another provider, we'd probably more closely bring into 150.
Okay.
So,
Now, will you have information like that?
yeah, I'm gonna make a recommendation to switch providers at the first of the year.
So you're working with one right now?
Well,
See what
I'm-
numbers would be?
I'm trying to figure out who to go to. The problem is the provider that, so right now we're paying per report, and the provider that everybody's switching to is charging 5%. So it's not really an apples to apples comparison, and so it's kind of sort of hard to try to figure out what that would be.
Yeah, true.
Because
You might be able to forecast it, but what?
well, the hard part is I can kind of easily tell you what we billed and what their charges would be. However, I don't know what's a Medicare billing and what's not. So I can't take off what Medicare, so I couldn't give you a real
Estimate.
real solid comparison.
But you could probably.
I could give you a guesstimate, but it would
You
be,
could say it's probably worth it.
it would, well, I mean, if they're getting us 25% more, 5% is nothing, you know? So it just all depends.
I don't have anything to add for budget, does anyone?
I don't know.
All right, miscellaneous?
The only thing that I want to remind everybody is that your next meeting is a Tuesday night, not Monday night, because it's
Veterans Day.
Veterans Day.
Okay. Administrator report?
Property and casualty renewal policy was completed. Just an item of note. When I was going through the renewal of the property and casualty insurance, I noticed that there is a spot for a historical protected building. And the Oddfellows building was never listed as a historically protected building. So I did renew it as a historically protected building. So, I did submit it that way and asked the league to provide me an explanation of what the difference between that would be and what the cost would that be, because with the extra money that we are always spending on tuck pointing and making sure that that building is being fixed according to
Well,
historical
see, that's what I thought. We were
accuracy.
told we had to do it.
Right.
Wouldn't that be that there was a?
So my thought process is if that building ever gets damaged and we have to maintain its historical accuracy, right? So if we have to insure it that way, we should insure it that way, right?
Right.
So I did change that.
Okay.
Continue to work on general fund enterprise budgets. Finished some conversations with Houston Engineering. Finished some 2025 street fund stuff. Worked on sewer fund.
Can we back up?
Yep.
Remember, I had some questions for him. I didn't want to ask.
I forwarded them all to him.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just kind of poking
Brought him a little bit.
Yep. Because they were detailed questions. I didn't want to bring them up here.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I did forward them to him. I said, Jason has questions about these. He'll probably ask them to you. It's not
No, I just didn't want to get in the weeds.
worked through THC ordinance stuff. I pushed everything to American Legal Publishing. They have everything now. I think we're third on the list for our ordinance recodification. Shannon Sweeney and I worked through the financials on that 2025 street project, and then worked on that homestake lot application documents. And then Ariel Arnold, it's the only employee anniversary. He goes for 6 years. I do not have anything else.
I just thought of something. We gotta put some pictures of that new house once it's put in here and advertise it, so maybe more people come in and buy lots.
Sue Abbott on the EDA. We are talking about potential. She would like us to put some homestake free lot signs on her, nice new signs out on the edges of town. So now that we have some space available, we might revisit that. So, but yeah, if the homeowner is willing to let us do that, maybe we should.
Facebook page, just say, hey, look what we got in town.
Not a bad idea.
Mhm.
Move to accept the city administrator's report.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mayor and council comments? Anybody got anything? Yep. All right,
To adjourn?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right.